have the awesome privilege to introduce speaker number 4, Mr. Parth Patel.
Weighing in at over 2,500 pounds, having 80 razor-sharp teeth, and a bite force that's twice as strong as a tiger, a crocodile is Mother Nature's most magnificent creation. My hero used to deal with this every single day. My hero is Steve Irwin. Now, why is he my hero? He showed the world that you can have a passion and a love for something and still succeed and become famous. You don't have to be stuck in a cubicle from 9 to 5. Now, what does that have to do with us and the world? It's for us to learn from such a character that life is too short to be stuck in such a job. Take on our passion, take on what we love, and do something. Leave a mark on this planet before we leave it. So who am I to talk about Steve Irwin? Not only am I an animal science major, but I've seen every single episode of Crocodile Hunter. I've read every book that's been written about him and every article that's come about him. He is my hero. So what are we going to talk about today? Because the idea of Steve Irwin and the idea of doing something in your life are very vast topics. We're talking about 3 things. We're going to talk about Steve Irwin's early life at his wildlife sanctuary. We're going to talk about what made him the crocodile hunter as we know him. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about what he left this world with his legacy, which was chasing your passions and chasing your dreams. So the first thing we're talking about is Steve Irwin as a child. And his father actually started the Birwa National Reptile and Fauna Park in Australia. And as a young child, his parents knew right from the beginning, this kid has a passion for what he does, and animals. And at the age of 6, while we were getting dolls and race cars, he got his first pet snake. It was in his blood. This is what he loved to do. And going on, at the age of 9, according to the Encyclopedia of World Biography, he actually caught his first crocodile. Think about that. At the age of 9, we were out playing kickball and eating ice cream after dinner. And he was out catching crocodiles with his dad. So the story goes, his father was out relocating troubled crocodiles, and he spotted a 3-foot crocodile. So he looks over at Steve Irwin and he says, "This one's yours, son." Right then and there, Steve Irwin knew what he was going to do for the rest of his life. Now, where's that moment in our lives? That's for us to ask ourselves. So going on, Steve Irwin grew up and he took over the facility. And his father gave him the responsibilities, and the first thing Steve Irwin did was change the name of the facility. Now you may ask why. And he wanted to take this facility and not keep it the small hole-in-the-corner facility for animals. He wanted to make it so every person in this world would know why crocodiles need to be saved and why animals in general are such an important factor of our ecosystem. So he changed the name to the Australia Zoo, and that is according to the Ocean Treasures Memorial Library. So Steve Irwin had a passion, he had a vision for what he wanted to do in his life. We have to keep that same mentality in our lives. So going on, what made Steve Irwin the crocodile hunter? Because that's what we all know him as. Crikey mate, Steve Irwin. That's what we know him as. So the first thing actually how it happened was an Australia TV production company was creating a documentary. And they used Steve Irwin as a clip of that documentary and presented that obviously to the TV company. When that documentary aired, people were talking about one thing, his segment of catching crocodiles. So the TV company goes back to Steve Irwin and says, "We would like to make a show just about you and call it The Crocodile." And that's where it originated from. The first episode of that series was Steve Irwin and his wife catching crocodiles on their honeymoon. Most people don't do that. This was in Steve Irwin's blood. This is what he wanted to do. He also put a twist on the idea of conservation and education. It wasn't just meant for books and a mere blackboard or a projector. He was hands-on. He taught kids that crocodiles aren't these scary creatures. If we're gentle to them, they'll be gentle back to us. It's our relationship with these creatures. He taught us how it's not just about killing these creatures out in the wild, it's about saving them. They're just as important as we are to the ecosystems that make up this planet. However, this outward way of teaching the society cost him his life. At the age of 44, he was shooting a documentary known as Ocean's Deadliest, and a stingray in the water actually mistook him as a shark and took his barbed tail and stuck it right through his chest, killing Steve Irwin at the age of 44. Now, at the age of 44, many of us are still working at work and not doing much. We have kids, and that's it. If we end up passing away, not many people know about us. However, that's the difference between Steve Irwin. He had something. He had a passion, and that's the legacy he left. And that's the last thing we're going to talk about today. Steve Irwin's empowerment to me, being my hero, and to us, how we need to find what drives us, what wakes us up in the morning, and include that in our lives. It's not merely meant to be sitting at the office at work and working and looking at the computer. It's more than that. Life is too short to just work. It's to find what you love and implement that into your life, whether it be dancing, singing, art, sports. Find time for it in your life. So I challenge those of you sitting here today, find that thing. Make it part of your life. You owe it to yourself, because life is too short. So let's go over what we talked about today. We talked about Steve Irwin at his wildlife sanctuary. And then we talked about what made him the crocodile hunter, as we all know. And last but not least, we talked about how Steve Irwin had a passion for something. He had a love for something. And he took that and translated it into his life. He wasn't just merely going to work. And so, my thing for you guys to remember is before you walk out this door, if you have something that means to you just as much as that 2,500-pound crocodile meant to Steve Irwin, keep it in your life. Take it on. Because you deserve it, and the world deserves people that follow what they dream. Thank you.